The NFL draft is just around the corner, and the Gambling.com North America team is here to break down the entire draft, from picks to trades to surprises. I'm Steve Ruddick, alongside my Gambling.com North America teammates, Larry Henry, Bryce Durwine, and Chris Wassel, to discuss the 2023 NFL Draft. Chris, I'll start with you, and the question everyone wants answered: who are your top 10 picks?
My top 10 picks for the 2023 NFL Draft are as follows. We have Bryce Young, the quarterback from Alabama. Second, Will Anderson Jr., the edge rusher from Alabama. Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia. Fourth, C.J. Stroud from the Ohio State University. Fifth, Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, the talented cornerback. Bijan Robinson, the surprise running back from Texas. Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle from the Ohio State University, going seventh. Lucas Van Ness going eighth from Iowa. Devin Witherspoon going ninth, from the cornerback from Illinois. And rounding out our top 10, Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia.
Excellent. And Bryce, who you got in the top 10?
Yeah, everything with the NFL draft obviously starts with the number one overall pick, and I have Bryce Young listed too. A month ago, I listened to a college basketball podcast, One Shiny Podcast, and former NFL executive Michael Lombardi was on to just discuss college basketball, and he gave some draft nuggets as well and said, everything he heard, Bryce Young was going to be the number one pick. At the time, Bryce Young to go first was plus 170 on FanDuel. Now we see that odds have shifted massively in Young's favorite, minus 1,200 favorite. So I wish I would have jumped on it back then when I heard that on the pod. But so yeah, that's the interesting betting standpoint with number one pick so far.
Excellent. And Bryce's other picks are up on the screen right now. And we'll jump over to Larry. Larry, who's your top 10?
Hey, thanks, Steve. So a lot of the top 10s will be the same. A lot of that's going to depend, too, on what the team's needs are. I looked at size and speed because those are really significant in the NFL. For instance, I have Devon Achane on there. He's not going to be in the top 10. He won't even be in the top couple of rounds probably, but he may be the fastest player in the draft, and that's always significant. He's small. Texas A&M, he and Jahmyr Gibbs. I have both of those guys as top picks, possibly because they're so fast and so quick, small but fast and quick. They're Jamal Charles type guys. Now, also you look at like Quentin Johnston from TCU, big tall receiver. He's 6'4", but he's also a sub 4.4 40 guy. So he's also a real high consideration on the speed front too, which is always significant. Brian Branch, a safety at Alabama. Team needs, the Raiders are going to need somebody in the backfield. They're weak in the backfield, and they're in the AFC West with quarterbacks like Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and people like that. Brian Branch is a sub 4.4 guy. He's a safety at Alabama, a versatile guy who also can play in the nickel package. So you look at speed in the draft as a fan and as a bettor when you're looking at as it goes down the list and looking at options. Then you also have to look at size. We did a story not long ago about the biggest lineman in the NFL, and that's really significant. Big, strong linemen who are agile. Chris mentioned Paris Johnson, who comes in at 6'6", 310. You got Osiris Torrance from Florida, who's 6'5", 347. You got Joe Tippmann from Wisconsin, who's 6'5", 317. So speed and size are going to be important in the draft, looking at team needs.
All right. So Larry is a combine guy. Bryce is a books guy. He's looking at the odds. Chris, you have a couple of interesting choices on your selection board. So you have Jalen Carter up into the top 5 and number 3, and then you have Devin Witherspoon, the cornerback, and you have him down at number 9. He's somebody who a lot of the experts have ranked really high, but your fellow panelists here don't even have him in the top 10. I was wondering if you could give a little more insight into those two players.
Well, Jalen Carter, for one, is a risk because we don't know how this Arizona and Indianapolis kind of potential trade scenario is going to work, how the draft is going to go, and that may determine who goes third. Is it Carter? Is it, is Detroit going to step up? Is somebody going to move up or move down that's unexpectedly? But Carter has just this athletic ability that I can't put into words necessarily, but I'll try to. And what he does in games is he gives you those wow moments. And I know we've heard the Jadavius Clowney, hit that was heard around the world in a certain bowl game for Michigan. Carter has those type of moments. Now, going to Witherspoon for a second, Witherspoon kind of doesn't have the same wow factor, but what he has is a consistent body of work and some unbelievable hands. For those that don't know, I would think one of the best hands in the business at the combine and in gameplay, which again is something that translates well to the NFL, and absolutely is a reason why he got ranked a little higher for me than most others, to be honest.
Interesting. So, Larry, everyone picked Bryce Young at number 1. Everybody picked a Will at number 2, but your Will has a different last name. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about Will Levis.
Will Levis from Kentucky. This could be the first time in NFL history 4 quarterbacks are taken in the top 4 spots of the draft. That's possible. Now, keep in mind with the draft, there are always surprises. Jalen Hurts, second-round guy in his class, he just signed the biggest contract in NFL history for a year on a yearly basis. Derrick Henry, Tennessee star, second-round guy. So there will be some surprises. So we don't know for sure, obviously, if these quarterbacks will line up that way. However, you look at a guy like Levis, and again, team needs. Levis is a Josh Allen type guy. He's got a strong arm. He's 6'4". He's a big specimen, played in the SEC, so he's used to that sort of high level of competition. But another significant factor, Steve, with a guy like Levis is he's a Joe Burrow type guy. He runs behind his shoulder pads. He's not afraid to hit. He's fast. He's actually slightly faster than in 40 times Young and Stroud. Now, Richardson's faster than all of them from Florida, and he's also 6'4" and also a physical specimen. But Will Levis has a combination of a strong arm and enough speed to be effective, and he's not afraid, like Joe Burrow, to use his shoulder pad. So that's why I like Will Levis, and I think that's why he'll do well. And you look at the Justin Herberts, the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomeses, and that combination of skills is always valuable in the NFL. So I think you'll see Levis go high.
And Bryce, you also have a name in the top 3 that didn't appear in Larry or Chris's top 10 list. Tyree Wilson. Tell us why the defensive end caught your eye.
Yeah, Wilson has been rising up in just certain mock drafts, and reporters are saying that he could go as high as number 2 if the Texans decide to go with a defensive end. He's 6'6", 271 pounds, so they love his measurables and his size. He had the most pressures in the Big 12 with 50 and had the highest pressure rate in the conference at 20.7%. Sportsbooks have taken notice, too, of the recent buzz around Wilson. He has the second best odds to go at the number 2 spot at plus 310. And FanDuel also lists him at plus 340 to be the first defensive player drafted. So I think given the need that DeMeco Ryans head coach for Houston, if he wants to get like a Nick Bosa type pass rusher, they decide to go with Wilson instead of Anderson, that number at 310 or 350 for first defensive player drafted could be interesting, worth a look, I think, going forward.
Definitely. And so let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about more of the draft in general. So, Larry, whether we call them a sleeper or an overreach by a team, who could you see sliding into the top 5?
Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. Again, I don't think Devon Achane is going to be top 10, much less first, second, or third rounds. I was using him as an example of somebody who has attributes that are valuable in the NFL. But so I think you have to look at those kind of things. And everybody's hit on this, but I think the kind of things that teams need are never going to change. And offensive linemen, I think you're going to see, as I mentioned a moment ago, an Osiris Torrance moving up from Florida, who's a guard. I think you're going to see Joe Tippmann, possibly of Wisconsin, a center, moving up. Anderson's going to move up from Alabama, the edge guy. He'll be a top pick. Chris mentioned and others. So I think those are some of the changes you may see in the draft going forward. Now, also, by the way, Jordan Battle, a safety from Alabama, also a super fast guy. In a quarterback heavy league, you're going to need a lot of really good defensive backfield players. So you got to look at somebody like Battle from Alabama. Cornerbacks, you need big, strong cornerbacks. Obviously, they'll go. And you also have to look at the running back core this year. You got Zach Charbonnet from From UCLA, you got Rodriguez from Kentucky. So there are a lot of good running backs too who could move up. So it all depends on team needs, but there are a lot of really good players who could move up. But take a look at the offensive lineman. I think that's going to be significant.
And Bryce, if we look at the other side of that coin, who could be this year's Aaron Rodgers and slide down the draft board?
Well, I think that there's a lot of divisiveness around certain quarterbacks like Anthony Richardson from Florida and like Larry mentioned, Levis from Kentucky. Richardson jumps off the charts with all his measurables, 6'4", 231, 10 and a half size hand inches, 4'4", 340, 4.5, 40 inch vertical, all first in those categories for quarterbacks that measured. But then there's certain things like red flags that stuck out in college with his accuracy. He completed just 53% of his passes. He was 127th in completion rate versus pressure at 38%, according to Pro Football Focus. And he had just a 60% completion rate when he was not under pressure, and that ranked 138th among quarterbacks. So if that's a big enough red flag, despite how his physicals match up, he could end up sliding if teams elect not to take on that project, and if he doesn't project as a better passer going forward. So I think he sticks out as one that could slide down further.
And Chris, something that could radically change the draft board is everybody's favorite thing, a trade. What teams could be looking to trade up or down this year?
Yeah, trading up and trading down is sort of the lost art. Or for our favorite, now everybody points out to Bill Belichick and the Patriots' propensity for trading down in drafts. But how about a GM that normally never trades up or down in drafts? And that would be Tom Telesco of the Los Angeles / San Diego Chargers, depending on pre or post 2017, who has not traded up or down in the first round in, get this, 11 straight NFL drafts. This may be the one year that he is somewhat enticed because of what the panelists have mentioned as potential move-up targets. So LA may be one of those teams that finally takes the plunge. A couple others, Houston, like we mentioned, if Houston decides to go the defensive route at second, do they trade down on the 12th pick? We've also considered even Buffalo trading up. They're at 27 right now. They're looking to maybe get up into the middle of the first round. And of course, there is the Seattle Seahawks, who have the 5th and 20th picks of the first round. They're looking at potentially moving on down with one of their picks. And even Philadelphia has 2 picks. They are considering moving down as well.
Can I piggyback a thought onto that too?
Absolutely.
Chris, absolutely. I agree completely with that. I think you have to look at teams too who, Minnesota, for instance, it's unclear what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins. He's in his mid-30s, I think. And so Minnesota may be looking at a move. So, Tampa Bay is in a quarterback sort of a struggle to figure out what to do going forward. So keep an eye too on some of those teams who may try to move up to get some of those quarterbacks that Bryce and others of us have mentioned who are at the top of the board.
Mm-hmm. And one last Miami with only 4 picks and some potential capital as far as moving actual players, may be able to entice a team to move up into the first round a little, somehow, in some way. So keep an eye on that as well.
So it looks like everyone on the panel is in agreement that Bryce Young is going to go number 1. If you agree with that, we'd love to hear from you. If you disagree with that, we'd love to hear from you even more over at the gambling_NA Twitter account. Let us know what you think about this year's draft or what any of our panel of experts had to say today. Also, be sure to rate and subscribe this video below. It really helps. And for the whole team, I'm Steve Reddick. Thanks for watching.